This comes from Gay Magazine. It's actually a reference to Laverne Cox's tweet. People who work full time should be able to make a living wage. A $15 an hour federal minimum wage is way past due. Sign the petition to ask Sen Sanders to keep the minimum wage raised in the COVID relief bill. Don't kill it, Bernie. Fight for 15. Laverne Cox is using her wonderful influence to push for a $15 minimum wage. How can we make a fair minimum wage work? In some parts of the country, $15 an hour is much more than just a living wage. Yet in other parts of the country, it's just a drop in the bucket. Is a solution to provide all 40-hour per week working adults with some bare necessities, regardless of where they live. Perhaps bare necessities, a step above basic unemployment, as a means of encouraging people to stay in the workforce, perhaps including some basic child care too. Okay. I think the help with some bare necessities would be cute, but I don't think it would get to all the people. I think there will be a shortage of supplies, and then when they try to take a list of who they need to make up for, it's going to be all kinds of issues like, oh, we thought this, we thought that we sent somebody back out, all those types of things. In those cities where $15 is just a drop in the bucket, like I'll say somewhere like New York, like in New York, they have multiple programs that will compensate for wherever you're short. Like people say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And I was so scared of New York. I went out there and I got reduced rent because I was transgender. I got all kinds of assistance and all kinds. Like I didn't even know I could get disability because I was trans in New York. So I think in those type of areas, even though $15 is only a drop in the bucket, there's other things that make up for where you're short. Like my rent was $1,400, I was only paying $600 of it. You know, so yeah, I think you know that every area finds a way to make ends meet where other places, you know, thrive with just the wage that they have. So I don't think necessarily, you know, I do think there should be an increase in minimum wage because some people are really pushing for people to only make $7 an hour or whatever. Like, I don't think that's fair to anybody. And I think they're just, you know, I think they're concerned that these high school kids or, you know, whatever might, you know, make too much money and not consider school anymore. And I don't think it should be that. Like, if you have, you know, wages that, you know, people will appreciate work a lot more and will look forward to educating themselves to, you know, go further or whatever, because they see, you know, where the, you know, like people in school are getting little fast food jobs to pay for books and stuff. And like, that's crazy that they have to take extra hours up at work just to buy these $300 books. So, right. Yeah, you know, the wage does need to go up so that people who are trying to go to school and work at the same time just to pay the bills and to buy books, like that does need to change. But for people who are just living alone, you know, just living and working, I mean, I think this is going to be great for them, but it'll be even better for the people who are trying to multitask or whatever. But the cost of living in all different areas are different or whatever. But like I said, in other areas, there's all further up north, there is all kinds of programs, including California. Like there's programs that look out for the people. You just have to really utilize your community and everything that's in it or whatever. Down south is no shade. Like I found it harder to live. And I've just had to really be on my grind to make it happen. Up north, my life was a lot simpler and easier. So you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. That is the biggest lie that you'll ever hear. So, but Jay, what do you think?
Thank you, Yuri. So there's so many different, like, once again, when you hear these kind of topics, like through the Twitterverse or through the, through these Google streets, you kind of like, you kind of have your own opinion, but when you kind of like hear it from, like, from when you have things like this and you hear from other people, it's just, I didn't know it was that easy living in, not, I won't say that easy, but I didn't know it was one of those things where, you know what I mean? I didn't know that it could be easy, because I remember like being like 17 and working at McDonald's in Miami, and was like, I'm gonna take this last check and I'm gonna move to New York. And if Madonna can do it, bitch, I can do it. You know what I'm saying? So it was one of those things where I didn't do that. My ass ended up moving to Atlanta, but that's a whole other conversation. But it's one of those things where it's just like, if you know the things to make life easier, that's just education. You get what I'm saying? You just, because you learn every day. And I think well, at 18, I'm gonna be very transparent at this moment. At 18, and I know this probably might be drifting away from the initial topic, but if it drifts too far, just let me know. I remember being like 18 and going to Job Corps in Albany, Georgia. And I think that experience really changed my life and shaped my life, right? And it was because I was taken from an environment that I was accustomed to and then thrown into a different environment. And then when I was thrown into that different environment, I ended up meeting so many different people. And at that time, I was meeting a friend who mom lived in who mom worked for Delta. And I ended up, working for Delta, and that's how I ended up getting on job. That's how I ended up getting on American Idol through that whole experience. And I think it's just one of those things where, excuse me, repeat the question one more time, because just to make sure I'm on topic again, because I don't want to drift too far.
Okay. It's a solution to provide all 40-hour-a-week adults with some bare necessities, regardless of where they live. And basically, if this $15 an hour increase would actually benefit the people, especially the ones who are in areas where the cost of living is much more expensive than some cheaper places like Georgia.
I think, for instance, like like I live in Atlanta, and I have family who live in smaller cities in Atlanta, in Georgia. So I would say that I think that those people who cost of living in that area, like a Milledgeville or like a Sparta or whatever, in those areas, I think their base pay should be $15 an hour, because I feel like you don't work to live. You get them. You don't live to work. You get what I'm saying? You don't live to work. Nobody should be working 40 hours. You get what I'm saying? Like 40. You get what I'm saying? Like life should be much simpler than what the fuck it is. And I also feel like those people in those areas that live in smaller towns, well, y'all should get 15 hours. Y'all should get $15 an hour. But people who live in like Atlanta or live in like a Miami, listen, living in Miami is not that girl. Like, them bitches be on Instagram flexing real hard for the gram. But living in Miami is not that girl. Like, if you don't have a nasty coin, bitch, you're not going to survive. Bitch, you're going to be living in the hat and Google her. Okay? Because you're going to be in the shelter, bitch. Like, don't be coming to Miami thinking you're going to be that bitch and thinking you're going to be Trina and shit and all these bitches on Love and Hip Hop, because it's not going to go down that fucking way. Like, I really want people to understand when people say they want to go to Miami. Bitch, you want to go to Miami, bitch, you don't want to stay in Miami. Like, period. So, bitch, you're going to be living in the Poker Bean Projects. Like, I want to make sure that's very clear. So I think that people in those areas should make like $20 an hour. $21 an hour, because the cost of living, once again, you don't fucking go. I don't want to first of all, I don't want to motherfucking, life was not designed for me to go to motherfucking work. You bitches implemented that. That's patriarchy. Let's start off there. Okay? So I shouldn't be already going to this motherfucker in the first place. So now that I gotta go here, you want to pay me $7.25? Get your fucking life, in the words of the Scorpion Show, okay? Have several seats.
I love why he said that. Say what he said.
And I do support Bernie Sanders for a 2024 election. I do support him for that. Even though he's gonna be old as fuck, he's still gonna be more in his right mind than Joe Biden is right now. And that's all I gotta say on that topic. Have a good night.
Have a good night. I love it. Yes, okay. I guess I'll answer that, Monsieur G. Never mind. And this solution provide all 40-hour working adults with some bare necessities regardless of where they live. I feel like, yes, you should provide. First of all, if the pandemic ain't showed you we ain't got enough, baby, then I hope you figured it out. We ain't got enough, okay? And so, places like Canada have universal healthcare and, universal like a stipend that takes care of people like they're living and they're fine, and making ends meet, and people are working and things are moving. And I feel like that's what America needs to do. They need to look at some of these other countries and other places that are doing things that are more cost efficient and more healthy and more happy for the people that are in the country living, and not just for certain people, but for all people. So what they're doing ain't good enough. You know what I'm saying? Like Jay was saying about Florida, if you don't know these things, you don't know these people, you don't know their story, where they live and how they live, you don't know these things, You're just saying, oh, you live in Florida, based on you're living here, this is what it should be. It's not should be some guesstimation number. It should literally be like, when I lived in Australia, they were making $21 an hour to, work at McDonald's. And that was just, countrywide. And I was like, wow, $21 at McDonald's? What they doing over here? I need to come over here and make some money then. But ultimately, too, the cost of living is different because the money, the ratio to money wise is more, theirs is higher. But ultimately, too, like let's just say New York. If you lived in New York versus Australia, in Australia, those same apartments that people rent in New York, the persons that live there, they own it. In Australia, they don't rent; they own their shit. Okay, so it's like totally different, and so that's why I realized the cost of living was different because they own where they live. So. I mean, there's some things still to be made. Through this pandemic, we see we ain't got enough. We need more. So universal change in America is what we need. That's how I feel.
I just want to say something because you really said a lot, and I think it goes back to education and just really goes back to just education and just learning more. People in America are so wrapped up. I don't know what the fuck. I've never really traveled outside of America, but girl, I really feel like a person looking from the outside in. Like people is really blinded. Like people these girls are really gooped out here in America. Okay, these bitches are living real good in other fucking countries, and it's bothering me that people in America don't get that. And yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all right. Fierce, go on, Rocky. Rocky gonna finish it out.
You know I am. I'm about to. Period. For me, $15 an hour would definitely do good because, I'll be honest with you. I'm a person with a disability, couple of disabilities. Okay, I went to school for social work, right? I feel like sometimes I'm underappreciated. And I'm only making $13 an hour, okay? In Chicago, you make about $15 an hour. But when I was living in the suburbs, it was way lower than that. I started at a gas station, all this other stuff. I was not making that much. But hell yeah, I got my SSI that covers this and that, whatever. But who wants to just sit there and just pay bills? That's what bothers the fuck out of me. I don't want to just live my life just to pay bills. I want to actually I would like to live my life lavishly like these people that be stunning on the book. But y'all know y'all asses be leasing on Flex Shopper. Y'all be leasing on Quad Pay. Y'all be leasing on Klarna and be acting like y'all just sat there and spent $2,000 in $1